I don't know if you've noticed, but we humans are pretty egocentric by nature. We are very self-centered in our views. We have our personal, well, our upbringing, our education, our experiences in life, our social environment, basically our personal background that has a tremendous influence on what views we have. And we typically have a tendency to project these things onto others. There is this tendency to accept your own experiences and your own views as kind of the universal standard, as though everybody was exposed to the same ideas and kind of knows exactly what you're about. But that's not really the case, and this is where a lot of conflict comes from, basically. Let me just give you an example. Suppose you have, on the one hand, you have a guy who has a traumatic experience related to firearms and has very negative associations based on that. Let's say his parents were shot at a young age. So basically Bruce Wayne, we're basically talking about Batman. His ideas about firearms, which are very negative, harmful to society and everything, which those ideas may also lead him to seek out scientific articles, or, well, if they have a low need for cognition, just newspaper articles maybe, or what somebody has said, they know someone who has been shot and all that. All those things would be received, and there's usually this confirmation bias going on, which makes you remember things that confirm your own beliefs more strongly than things that contradict it. So that person would then go about his business and just everything he sees and knows and everything, this all confirms the ideas that he has. Same if you, on the other hand, if you have a, well, let's just say the stereotypical gun-toting redneck who thinks that not only is firearm ownership a right, it's also something that you should do. You should exercise it. If you don't have guns, you're not a real man. And, well, I try not to go too deep into the stereotype, but let's say the person thinks that it is just a basic way of defending yourself, of protecting your freedom, and there are some ideologies attached to that. Of course, this more, I guess, libertarian or conservative idea, this sort of skepticism towards the government. There are a lot of things that go into this. And so, if those two guys project their views onto the other, they of course reach the conclusion there's something wrong with that guy. Because from the point of view of the first person, Bruce Wayne basically, the redneck would be thriving on violence or something. Like that guy, he's promoting dangerous items that endanger society, and he would like to see people on the street shoot each other over a parking lot. So there's definitely something wrong with the guy. He's either stupid or evil or whatever. And on the other side, the pro-gun right activist, or whatever you want to call him, he would look at the other guy and think that he's a brainwashed sheep and, you know, is totally a government drone and is not skeptical enough and blah this and blah that. So then also with that guy there would also be something wrong, of course, because, I mean, how can you not be in favor of that and blah, blah, blah. Another example would be abortion. If you are pro-choice or, well, pro-life, which I call anti-choice, but hey, let's leave my view out of that for a moment. On the one hand, you have someone who thinks that at the moment of conception, life starts, because then the soul is connected or whatever. They have their ideas connected to this, and they judge the situation and the decisions that others make or advocate, they judge them accordingly. And if you believe that life starts at conception, blah, 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 terminating a pregnancy would always be murder, always, regardless. So then you jump to the conclusion that those people are immoral because they are in favor of, you know, killing, blah, blah, blah. And on the other side, then you have people who have maybe read some scientific articles, have come to the conclusion that it takes a while for this lump of cells to actually become a human being. And they would just say up to a certain point, you cannot really call this a human being, and then it has no soul, either no soul yet, or it will never have one, whatever. Whatever kinds of ideas are behind that, they view it completely differently, and to them it is not a complete human life yet. And also they would then weigh it against the fully formed life of the adult mother. So, completely different views, they clash, both think that the other is immoral, because if you have that view, the pro-choice view, the rigid insisting on that, no, you can never do that, even if it's a rape victim, that comes across as immoral. So both guys now think that the other one is immoral. Why? Because they insist on their personal worldview, and they think that the other guy must also implicitly share that worldview, but kind of wants to distort it or whatever. And it is then also pretty common to accuse other people of being strictly against a concept that is unique to oneself. Like, for instance, when somebody says that, oh, you hate my God. Well, usually they would just say God without my, because that much self-reflection is not even there. But it's very odd, because from the other point of view, like for instance, when Europeans came to Oceania and Africa and all sorts of places, they brought their cultural baggage with them. They brought their ideas about how the world works and their religion and everything. They brought it there, where people had a completely different background. They had no idea about any of the stuff that those Europeans were talking about, just like the Europeans had no idea about the beliefs that these people had. And then the Europeans would just think that those are savages, and that they specifically reject the absolute truth that they of course have found. And there you have the problem, there you have the clash. And both sides would project their ideas on the other, and then they would judge them according to their own views, which then of course means that the others seem stupid or crazy or evil or whatever. Simply because they do not realize the simple fact that different people have different backgrounds, which inform their entire worldview. There are, of course, some things which are universal, such as, well, let's say gravity. Gravity is universal. But even that can be disputed. Whether you can do that objectively in a correct fashion, that's a different thing. But if you have a completely different worldview, like if somebody has the idea that all scientists are liars and try to manipulate you and whatnot, they will not believe that, even though, I mean, come on, the theory of gravity, it's what more evidence do you want? But if that person doesn't even accept the idea of evidence or how it works, or that it is even necessary, it would fly completely past them, because they have such a different frame of reference and they judge things differently. Some views, some deeply held views and beliefs are implicit. You don't really realize that you have them, because in your mind, or in the back of your head, or whatever, your subconscious, if you will, it is completely natural and self-evident. And you don't even notice that you have these views and beliefs, which are actually subjective, but kind of back of your mind says, nah, they are universal and they are objective and everything, even though they are not. Yes, that was a lot of blah blah. I don't know if any of that is useful, but you know, just my 2 cents. Yeah, I know. Just ranting about something this is not really very useful. So what about a possible solution? Well, a possible solution to these conflicts would be very explicit about your ideas and rules and everything. First, of course, you have to understand yourself. You have to figure out, what are the views that I'm holding. One thing, in order to even find out what subjective views and beliefs you hold, may be to step outside of your comfort zone and take a look at views that other people have and try to understand them. And then maybe you might be able to realize that, oh, okay, this view that I have, you don't even have to change it necessarily. If you still agree more with your own view, it's just fine, you don't have to change. But at least then you can see that, okay, there are actually reasonable arguments for the other side based on their frame of reference, based on what they know, what they have experienced and all that. So then you may actually be able to understand your own views better, and then you may realize that, okay, maybe they are not universal and absolute, and maybe I shouldn't pass harsh judgment like that on other people. Is that easy? No, it is not. Even though I talk about these things, am I successful at that every single time? No. There are still a lot of views that I hold which I probably am not aware of, or which sometimes I jump to conclusions and judge people as being crazy or insane or stupid or whatever, even though I shouldn't, just because I lack understanding of their view. So it is very, very difficult, but it would help a lot to reduce conflict among people. So might be worth trying. Yeah, I think I'm done here, right?